Hello, it's Naomi Seaward showing you my life brief sketchbook. So some of these are going to be a bit difficult to see, so I'm just going to read them out to you what I planned out. So I knew for the life brief I wanted to do IDOT, and I was going to split it between conversational and new zeitgeist. So I started by doing mood boards to kind of figure out what a conversational was or what the new zeitgeist was. So I figured out that conversational was kind of like inspiring your imagination, so you're telling a story, so that could be through fairy tales. But I thought maybe it wouldn't be good to kind of go down that route because it kind of gets copyrighted, and I wanted to kind of come up with something more original. But then I thought about real stories, so stories about real people, real experiences, real places. So yeah, it could be a person, it could have been an event, it could have been a place. So it could be kind of coming up with ideas. It could be a scenic of someone, someone influential, or an event that's happened, like a wallpaper with a vanishing point, or something like that, and really thick repeats to kind of show an event or a place, just simply representing a lovely place that's personal to me or not personal to me. So I kind of went with the person because I was really inspired by that. And for the new zeitgeist, I kind of considered the same. I googled zeitgeists and it came up as the defining spirit or mood of a particular period of history is shown by the beliefs and ideas of the time. So I kind of thought, well, what are the beliefs of our time in the 21st century in design? So that's craftsmanship, that value, the new value on really like beautiful illustration, careful design, and it goes back to kind of like that William Morris, Art Nouveau, that focus on natural forms and ornaments. And then trends as well, so thinking about trends in interiors, inspired by nature and things like that. And then I thought about kind of like societies. So our kind of zeitgeist of the 21st century is we all live in cities. You know, there's not a lot of biophilia in our lives. We're kind of separated from it, and it's the kind of diversity. We've got growing populations, mixing of cultures, and it kind of all leads to that biophilia. They attempt to reconnect with nature through our designed environments. So it could be said that the zeitgeist for 2020 is the growing concern for nature and rekindling of our empathy for Earth. So how do you reignite love for natural form in wallpaper, which was also focused on my dissertation. So I kind of looked at the origins of nature-inspired wallpaper, so kind of from the 18th century. This Chinese hand-painted wallpaper from the V&A and the William Morris scrolls. There was kind of like different styles, so you'd have Parisian with vessels and beautiful prints like that. You'd have the Gothic styles, plasterwork, kind of William Morrissy but older. And then in contrast, the modern explorations of it are just vastly, vastly different. Like Timorous Beasties, for example, it's this beautiful burst of true-to-life colour with our advancements in technology, digital print. We're not just limited to we're not just limited to wood blocks. That was the word I'm looking for. There we go. And then companies like Arte, who are making innovative wallpapers with paper and these beautiful colours inspired by the sea. So then I kind of started thinking about the zeitgeist first, and focusing on a toile I wanted to do. So I kind of thought about looking at different types of toiles. So it's kind of a varied subject, I found, because a lot of things can be classified as a toile. So there's this is what I would identify as one. It's kind of like a blocky area where the different areas intertwine with each other and there's scenes and there's stuff going on. Or there's these ones where there's stuff happening in the background and the foreground, and the darker colours imitate things in the front, and you have these vanishing points. And they're all quite layered, I would say. And then looking at some older ones, so I found this vintage print. It doesn't have an artist, but I thought it was really lovely in the way that it kind of like sucks out the colour instead of putting it down. The same as this one, it's kind of focusing on the blank space. And I really like these. So then I started looking at the scenic toiles. They're very popular. This one is very similar to the timorous beasties example. They're traditionally quite pastoral scenes, but how do we subvert the genre? So we pick a new kind of scene. We need to find the story through the print. You get what I mean? So I kind of started examining how they were picking out bits in the foreground, adding bits to detail and things. So I did another mood board to figure out my story. So I knew it was going to be about nature, and I kind of wanted to look at wildlife and biophilia as well. So it kind of led me to modern narratives about these things. So some of the more depressing ones that we have to face now are deforestation, global warming, poaching and extinction. There's a lot of negativity about the natural world right now. Things are going really bad. And I considered it, and I didn't really want to portray a negative story. I really wanted to portray something positive. So I kind of thought, how do we look at something else? And looking at interiors collections, there's not a lot that you would find that's kind of like controversial or the sad side of it. And I decided I wanted to do a celebration of nature instead. So I tried finding naturally inspired artists and thinkers, and obviously Stephen Kellett did the biophilia concept. And looking again at the botanical illustrators, Ernst Haeckel, the traditional one with the jellyfish and his gorgeous copper plates. Van Gogh is another one that I considered as an artist. John J. Audubon and Maria Sibylla Merian. They were all, the thing that links them is they were all really influential thinkers. They were not only brilliant artists, we still learn from them today, and that's the kind of thing I wanted to focus on. And so I started researching a couple more like artist references. So I looked at Henri Rousseau, which I really loved his paintings. He never actually went to any of these places. He did it all from the botanical gardens in France, but he created such beautiful things, and they were so influential at the time. They started the conversation because he was so different to everyone at the time. And then looking again at Maria Sibylla Merian and looking at her illustrations, she was highly respected and influential. She basically blurred the lines between science and art, creating these beautiful artistic pieces, but also depicting the natural like world order, like the growth of the butterfly from the larva to the caterpillar. And then I also found Marianne North when I was doing my dissertation, and I thought, well, I'll keep that for later. And it presented the perfect opportunity in this project. She was a brilliant woman who travelled the world alone because she was so passionate about nature and didn't want to reproduce it from images or just like bits they'd chopped off and brought back from expeditions. So she went herself on her own to some of the most dangerous places in the globe at the time and did it herself. She found out new species. She documented hundreds and hundreds of different species, and she has her own gallery in the Kew Gardens, and I still haven't been there, and I really need to go when all this is over. So I decided to do a project about her and how wonderful her work was, and kind of spin it as the conversation of her exploration of the world. So obviously the first place to go was to get some botanical references. So I went to Plantasia, had a trip around there, did some drawing, some textural drawings as well. I knew I wanted to go quite realistic with this to mirror her style, because she worked in oils, but I wanted to work with gouache. I did try to draw the Asian leopard cat they had there, but it did not stay still. So what I did instead, I got some references of cats from my cat Pepper. So I drew her having a sleep. And then these are some of the images I had from Plantasia. So I kept these loose just so I can flick through them when they go through the book, just to keep them on reference. I didn't want to stick them in. And then what I did then, I went to the Natural History Museum as well and drew from that same cabinet that I explained in my major project, looking at the birds, the kind of poses, the curious poses they did, and all that lovely stuff. And then I started trying to plan out my toile. So I was going to make it 50 by 50 to fit into guidelines, and I would just extend it out. And I wanted a kind of like pastoral jungle type theme linked to Marianne North's expeditions to research and paint. So I want it to be quite playful. The birds dance in between. She's there painting on her easel, and there's a little bird perched on her easel, and kind of mixing the trees in and over, and figuring out how I can do that roughly, and whether I could texture it. This was meant to be a screen print. And so I started thinking more about the story then, looking at other wallpapers that kind of told a story. Holden has this wonderfully quirky piece that's just really interesting. I don't know, you don't really know what the story is. It's a bunch of animals in hats and crowns, but it gets you talking about it. The same as this one, it kind of shows the food chain, I'm guessing, from looking at it. It's kind of like the bird, the bug, the pineapple, and then the lizard. He's kind of like, I really love the movement of that one, and the style of Timorous Beasties I was influenced by for my toile, especially for screen print. Looking at some more different references now, I was really interested in Murray's Menagerie of Extinct Animals, because it depicted extinct animals. Like, the whole collection was focused on these different animals. And looking at how they built a collection with really simple coords was really helpful for me with this one. And then I started looking at her references again more. So then looking at this Jungle Fever wallpaper, I really loved how playful it is, the monkeys like dancing in and out of the leaves. Even though it's quite a simple vertical, it melds really well. And what I really wanted to capture is involving the animals with their natural habitat. So I wanted it to look really natural, like these. Looking at separations for colour that really interested me. Doing a bit more mood boards. This is kind of when I had to take it down to start major, so I put it in here. Really love the dark colours. And figuring out how I can make texture. This one was printed on a canvas, so you kind of get that lovely crosshatchy thing. And I did another little graphite drawing of a bird for this one, which I really liked. And another of my conversational designs, I wanted to focus on one flower that she had done and explore that. So I did this Telopia speciosima. I probably butchered that. But yeah, focusing on this beautiful flower. I loved the form of it, how it kind of bulbed, and how I could kind of make this vertical repeat with it. And I thought the flowers would be a perfect fit for that. So I started looking at other ways I could represent it. So maybe just looking at line drawings and things like that. Just got to get this drawing. And I did this small little illustration to kind of get a feel for that. But I knew I kind of wanted it to be quite thick and chunky and a lot of colour. So I ended up doing these. A lot of my drawings for Life Brief are still in uni, so I can't show you those, like my macaws painting, all my leaves, my big paintings of leaves are all still in uni, so I can't show you these. The sketchbook is a little bit sparse at the end of this. Empty pitch. And then my last kind of idea for the conversational was looking at the gallery itself. Her gallery has a lot of frames, these really simple frames, but thinking about how they could be used to like design a motif or frame the jungle, which is what I eventually called my pattern in the end. So I really love these frames. And then that's about it for this research journal. A lot of it is digital and I don't have a lot of the sketches because they are all still in uni. They're all in my plan chest if you wanted to have a look at those. So that is Life Brief. The rest is on my PowerPoint. Thank you.